Today, I sit down with Gianna Whitver. She discusses how she got into cybersecurity and what the transition was like, as well as any advice she would have for any young women looking to succeed or get into similar roles. Can you give an overview of your role and what you do in cybersecurity?
Sure. My name is Gianna Whitver. I am the CEO and co-founder of the Cybersecurity Marketing Society. We're a global member space organization of marketers in cybersecurity. So we have about 4,000 members from 1,600 companies in our community. Before that, I worked at a cybersecurity company in the marketing department. And I've taken what I learned from my jobs working in cybersecurity marketing teams to the community I've built so that I can help others be more successful at marketing and go to market in cybersecurity.
What were some of the first steps that got you where you are today?
So wow, how far back do you want to go?
Like the beginning of, well, where did you start out? Right, like did you transition into cybersecurity?
Yes. So I did not go out of college and get a job at a cybersecurity
Mhm.
company. I had a degree in English, so English and advertising. So I got a job at IBM, and then I found myself overwhelmed with how slow IBM moves. So I moved to a very small startup in commercial real estate, and then this opportunity in cyber arose, and I was like, oh, so interesting. I like tech. I love startups. It was a very small company. It was like 50 people. I was like, I'm going to go there and kill it. So I transitioned from that real estate job into cybersecurity and realized very quickly that the industry was really different. It was full of acronyms. It was full of very grumpy security people who were always mad at stuff. And I just had a lot of a learning curve to learn, basically. So and that's why a few years later, I started the society with my co-founder, Maria Velasquez, because basically what had happened, how I'd learned on the job. You always learn on the job, but I learned on the job. But I also, me and her met at a trade show and we would just call each other. We worked at different cyber companies and I'd be like, hey, what are you paying for this? She'd be like, hey, look at this persona document. And we would share like intelligence across our two companies, not proprietary stuff, but just marketing stuff and help each other learn and grow. And that's why I decided to start the community with her. It was amazing to have someone to lean on and to sort of introduce me to the industry. And we wanted to bring more people into that.
When first getting into the industry, what were some of the biggest challenges you faced?
Yeah, so definitely the acronyms, the verbiage, and the very hard tech nature of it. So security is just drowning in acronyms. There's so many types of security out there. You could have IAM, which is identity and access management. I was in TI, threat intelligence. There's MRTI, machine readable threat intelligence, and every single acronym relates to a different solution which solves a different problem in cybersecurity. So I had to come in and learn all of the lingo and the jargon and basically how to talk in the industry and what words meant. And I was like, dang, I thought I did this like in preschool. Like I have to learn all over again. Like, what the heck are people saying when they actually say something?
I can't fully understand that, but I can like notice as somebody that doesn't know a lot about cybersecurity, it seems kind of like a whole foreign language in itself.
Exactly.
What did
It's got that. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
you finish?
It's got that very unique terminology that you have to learn. And usually you just learn it by fire, by you're on a call and someone says DSPM and you're like, well, I don't know that. And you like quickly Google it when no one's paying attention. And then you're like, oh, I know what people are talking about. Or you're like, I still don't know. And now I have to do some research.
Mm-hmm. When you encounter challenges, how do you break down going through that and overall, not just specific cybersecurity issues, but when you encounter an issue, what are some of your tips to overcoming that?
Yeah, so I have done a lot, I think, now that I'm where I am today. So I like to look back and see the other challenges that I've overcome, right? Like I got here today through the help of others and through circumstances out of my control, but also through hard work and through trying things, even if I was going to fail. So I take that approach of just knowing that I can do hard things and then I try my best.
What were some of the earliest, to go back even earlier, what were some of the earliest moments that maybe you were interested in cybersecurity, or you learned things that have helped you get to where you are today, or that you use today?
Yeah, so I always loved computers. So I think that interest, as a layperson, not a tech person, but as someone who's always read and learned about like layperson cybersecurity, that'd be like have a strong password, stuff that everybody should do. So I already had an interest in that. And then, so I think that predisposed me a little. And then I was working for South by Southwest Pitch, which is a big pitch competition held at this music tech film festival in Austin, Texas. I was identifying startups to invite to apply to their competition as part of a school project. And then I kept working with them after I was out of school. And one year they had a cyber like track. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. And I started to read about all these technologies and all these companies. And I was like, oh, that really clicks with what I cared about, with like an interest I already have. So I invited a company to apply to pitch. They got in. That was super exciting. And then I went up to them afterwards. I said, do you need any help with marketing? And they said, maybe. And I sent them an email every 2 weeks for the next 4 months until they gave me a job. And that's how I got in.
I love that. And I love the whole networking side of things, because that's what that's what I'm trying to do with the podcast.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
want to meet people and just see if I can, whatever I could take away from it.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. What are the biggest misconceptions about working in cybersecurity?
So I think the misconceptions might be that you have to be technical to work in cybersecurity, right? You could obviously work on the business side. So cybersecurity sounds very scary, sounds super techy. And of course, you do have to learn a lot of technical things, but it's not like you have to hack people and know how to like, break into stuff in order to get a job. Since there's so much out there in terms of companies under attack and vulnerable to cybersecurity risks, there's a lot of companies on the other side of that trying to protect and sell their solution. So you could always work at a company on the business side. Other things, I think people think that cybersecurity is scary, and there's again, as a regular person, like, that there's a lot of stuff one needs to do to protect oneself. And of course there is, but there's also a lot of just core principles that one can do to help stay safe online and digitally, with like your bank account, 2FA on everything, different passwords on everything, long passwords. It doesn't have to be such a headbanger that you're like, oh, I can't do this. Like, simplify it down and apply it to your own situation, and you'd be able to do some pretty good cybersecurity for yourself.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
What does female representation look like in the cybersecurity field?
Oh, it's pretty bad. So it's very low, I would say. I was just at a conference, and I was like, I looked around and there was like 20 women out of like 500. And I was like, oh, okay, it's one of these. So that happens, right? So I think in these heavily male dominated industries, there's opportunity for women to definitely break in. Sometimes it can be tough. I will tell you just straight up, I've been harassed, I've been propositioned, but that also happened in other industries that I was in, that I've been in. So it's not unique. And what you have to do is you just have to find the folks out there who are willing to bring you up and to grab your hand and pull you up with them.
What advice would you have to others looking to progress any industry that isn't very or that isn't totally inclusive of women?
Yeah, so I think it is that, like, you have to find the people who are willing to pull you up. So there's this term in corporate called getting a sponsor. So it's different than getting a mentor. A mentor helps you one-on-one. A sponsor will like mention you when you're not in the room, and then like put you up for opportunities. They'll think of you. They'll be like, oh yeah, Ariana, she should be, hired or take on this project, right? So that's what a sponsor is. So look for those folks. There's also a lot of communities for women in cyber. There's Women in Cyber. WeSees is what it's called for short. There's I think it's called Voice and Vision. That's another community. So there are also groups where, regardless of if it's cyber or not, there's often like an employee resource group or a group where you could connect with others who are powerful, underrepresented people in the industry who can help you with your career.
To kind of switch to more of a perspective point of things, what was the biggest mindset shift you've had when stepping into larger roles?
Okay, so I went from like an associate. I can remember moving from like a director of demand gen to a VP of marketing. So the mindset shift there from like just being a part of the growth machine to running the department is that now your team is the other execs. So it's not necessarily your unit. It's not necessarily like marketing. It's like, hey, my team is now me, head of sales, CEO, CPO, CTO, whoever else is on the C-suite. But even beyond that, it's also the communication. And I'm not saying politics or politicking, but it's a little bit politics. It's like you have to make sure that you're over communicating in a way that you did not have to do when you were an IC or an individual contributor. So there's a lot of new difference in that your new job as someone who's like a little bit higher up in that chain is to communicate what you guys are doing in a way that is understandable to the rest of the executive team.
What are some tips you have with to do well communicating and just other aspects that make you more beneficial to have in these scenarios or in these roles?
Can I curse on your podcast?
Yes.
Okay. So I stole this from, so I run a podcast. So I stole this from our guest that we just recorded with, Rob Sobers, CMO of Varonis. ATFQ, answer the fucking question. A lot of times, folks will go in a big circle, right? So if it was like, hey, how's the marketing? You're supposed to have 1,000 demos or 1,000 leads this week, right? Like, what's the number? If it's like 300, right? You might be like, well, and then get to that 300. And in some ways, there's value in that depending on the situation. But, you could also say 300. Answer the question. Is one of those things that I'm learning more and more. And I'm not doing very well on this podcast, but I am doing more and more.
Can I ask on more of a podcast kind of note? What are some of the biggest tips that you have for because you have a podcast and I'm starting mine up? What are some of the biggest tips you have as a podcaster, just with doing the whole thing?
Yeah. So I try my best to have my guests have a good mic because podcasts are audio. So I will tell you, I will turn off a podcast if the audio is too bad. I'll be like, there's 1,000 other podcasts I listen to. I'll just listen to the next one. So I always do a tech check with my guests. And if they have and tell them in advance, bring your mic, bring your plug-in mic. And then I yell at them. And sometimes even reschedule the podcast if they don't have good audio. That's a real, I don't know if you want to do that, Ariana, but that's something I do.
I might keep that in the back of my mind. I think right now I'm more focused on making sure I can get guests or just see if I don't know if I'm doing well enough on my side of it. But
another thing is consistency. So if you're going to drop an episode once a week, it better be once a week. You could do once every 2 weeks, etc. And people talk a lot about, podcasting, it's so oversaturated. We've been running our podcast for 3 years. We have, over 150 episodes. It's a successful podcast. We get better and better guests all the time. As we become more well-known, people start coming to us to be guests. They want to talk and be on our show. People say that podcasting is oversaturated. That's because there's I don't want to say millions. I would say millions. There's millions of podcasts that have 6 episodes because the hosts quit. They were like, I'm not seeing results fast enough, right? A podcast is really, really exceptional for relationship building, and it's a long-term thing. It only works if you do it. Commit to it. You could always turn it off later, but at least give it a year.
Yeah. I think I've been running this for 6 months now, and I'm not as consistent as I'd like to be with putting them out every now and then, but that certainly does help to hear.
Yeah.
And
I'll
like
give you one last tip.
Mhm.
We pre-record a lot of our episodes because we have a conference. So the
Mhm.
3 months leading up to our conference is like no record time. Is like we're just like we can't. We're like have too much stuff to do. So we actually will record twice a week for like 9 months in order to get enough to get us through like the
Mhm.
conference and the holidays.
That's good to know. That's a great tip. Do you have any more tips on the marketing side of things? Because I've sort of been like saving up my episodes and not really working too hard on getting them out there or getting them seen.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of when you say marketing, like just getting it in front of people,
Yeah,
listeners. Do you have like a platform? What are you using to publish?
I just use YouTube as now.
Okay. So I'm not the best at YouTube,
Hmm.
honestly, which is silly. So we use Megaphone so that it's on like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Um, how we promote our podcast is we will take a little video snippet and then of the guest talking, we'll add a little music, we make it a square or like the TikTok size, whatever. And we share it with them with a little blurb that they can post about the episode on their own social media. So people are on podcasts because they want to talk about themselves and they like to be the star, right? So we lead into that. We're like, yeah, here you go. Here's a video clip of you. Look how great you are. You sound so smart here. Here, we wrote a post for you. Go ahead and post it, right? And that helps us get more eyeballs and more listeners from their network. And it costs very little.
That's great. That's what my dad's been trying to help me a little bit with getting stuff out, and so he's been telling me some of that. What do you think's the some personality traits are that could benefit you in the cybersecurity field?
Tenacity, I think. I think empathy and understanding. So even if you're on that business side, if you're talking to a very technical techie person and like they're diving deep, or like I said before, some grumpy people, right? Just understanding where they're coming from. They might be dealing with a breach or with someone's account got hacked, the company's at risk, that sort of thing. That's the life of a security practitioner, is actually kind of can be very high stakes. So knowing that and empathizing, I think is and having that empathy and that personality of caring, I think matters.
What is the most valuable lesson you've learned
In
your whole
everything.
career?
Okay. So I think that ideas are great, but execution is everything, is something I put to heart. There's this it's a manifesto. It's not scary though. I think it's called the Manifesto of Doing. Hold on. Sorry if you can hear my typing. Cult of Done Manifesto by Brie Pettis. Um, I think that has been something, Brie Pettis and Keo Stark. That has been something that I've taken to heart, that if you want to do something, then do it. Because everyone has an idea. Everyone's like, I'm going to start the next Uber or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever idea. I'm going to learn to sing. Like, okay, did you get lessons? Did you like look up a YouTube? Like, what are you going to, can you
Yeah.
take an action? So I think done is the engine of more is how it ends. And that's how I think of things. And that's been something that I've applied to my life and has helped me.
Now, to kind of not transition, but to add on to that, what advice would you have regarding like when you have an idea and you want to get it done, figuring out the next steps?
Sometimes I just do things. So there's an Office episode, if you've seen The Office, with
Mhm.
oh crap, what's the main character? Michael Scott. And he goes, sometimes I just start talking and I don't know where the sentence is going to end. And it ends wherever it does. Like sometimes if I'm stuck, like doing that just start and seeing where it ends is how I break that like sort of analysis paralysis. So I'm a big fan of just hunkering down and like getting in front of a Word document and starting on something.
What is your process when things don't go to plan?
Things never go to plan. I try to build in more buffer now since I've learned that things never go to plan. And I
Mhm.
have another thing I just hold true to myself, which is everything takes longer than you think it will, which is absolutely true. I've found. Um, so when things don't go to plan, you just have to figure out what the next plan is and how you're going to fix it. Depends on also how high priority. So now that I have so much stuff to do as the CEO of the company, I kind of think of things as like, will this destroy us if I don't do it well, or is it okay? And I put more of my effort in the this will destroy us category. So if as long as those things are doing well, it's okay if some of the other things are slipping.
So you said now that you're the CEO, there's a lot more responsibilities. How do you manage personal life and then being a CEO and then anything else you have on your plate?
Yeah, so I've had to put all my fun little side projects aside, which is sad because I had all these little websites and I just like to make stuff, right? I'm like, oh, I'm a little bit of an artsy person sometimes. So now I try my best to be very executing during the day at the computer, like, hey, stop fucking around, get what you're trying to do done. Because once I'm done, I can go and have like a break, go for a walk, have dinner, hang out with my husband, etc. So I do try to have some downtime. It can be very challenging because as the CEO of a 3-person company, there's a lot of stuff to do. So I'm also like always kind of on if people need me.
Yeah. What does your day-to-day look like? Do you work from home?
I work from the home office. I get up at 6 or 7. If I'm having a great week, I go to the gym. If I'm not, then I drink super concentrated iced coffee, a couple glasses of that. And then it's since it's marketing, a lot of it's digital. So a day might look like check my emails for urgent things, draft a contract, and then send it. Like read some stuff. We have our Slack community, which is where our members live. Reply to my members. Have an internal phone call about a project, and then have a podcast call, and then have a couple calls with sponsors, and then I'll work on the conference for this year, for example, the agenda. So that's kind of like what today looked like.
Hmm. Does it ever get overwhelming? And if it does, like how do you manage that?
Oh, it always gets overwhelming. When I get super overwhelmed, I like to take a shower. It's
I,
like,
I get that. I do that too because it's
yeah,
just you never
it's in
you
the
always
middle of the day. It's just like,
yeah.
oh, all right. Well, I'm gonna take a shower. I'll be back. Like,
Hmm.
another thing is go for a walk, take a break. Take a real break, which means actually step away from your computer, not just look at your phone, but like take a minute, like a break, and go sit, like stand outside in the sun.
What are your biggest? I know I ask a lot about advice, but specific advice for young girls that maybe don't know what they want to do or they want to get into cybersecurity, or just what are the biggest tips you could give them?
I think networking is really key now. I think networking is really key. I think being interested in whatever you're pursuing is important. I think luck is a huge component of all this that nobody can control. And I think persistence. So once you have identified what you do want to do, go after it. And then lastly, the ability to let go. Like, hey, you have a job in cyber. Surprise, you hate cybersecurity. You want to be a librarian or a nurse or work on a garbage truck, whatever you want to do. I don't know, like with your life, but like you don't have to stay put. So decisions, especially made when you're young, they have consequence, but career decisions have very little consequence. You'll see my career when like, woo. So like if something interests you, go for it. And if you don't like it anymore, you can always change it later.
To focus more on the networking, what advice would you have on networking? Because I am always working at it, trying to just set up connections and see who I can meet.
Mhm. So the thing that when I found this in students in particular, things that students do when they network is they don't follow up later.
Mm.
So a student, not you, but students and me even, I was not that great at networking when I was young. I was like, I'm just going to work hard. I'm not going to care about networking. So I was like in this like work hard and it'll show, and didn't realize the value of people when I was like in my very early 20s. But one thing that that students do is they don't, they'll talk to someone and then that person will never hear from them again. So obviously students can be very busy as well. but like once a year, once a quarter, once a half year. Hey, thanks for, here's an update on my life. If someone accepts a meeting with a student, that means they care about young people, and therefore it's delightful when that student actually follows up with them. I don't know how many calls I've taken with students where they're like, oh, this was great, giving them career advice. They say they're going to follow up with me on something, and then I never hear from them again. So that's like I know it's just because
Yeah.
people are young, and that's like I think part of being young, but if you could step above that, wow, what of a difference that makes in terms of people remembering you too. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
That's great to hear, because I don't think I follow up as well as I should. So I knowing that that'll give you a little bit more of like a little bit more up and get you a little bit more remembered. That's great.
Yeah, it's delightful. People don't, it's almost like being in sales, kind of, right? Like following up matters.
Yeah. Have you ever been underestimated?
Oh, all the
And
time.
how did you deal with that?
I just talked to a friend like this week, and he was like, you're actually super smart. And I was like, hey, what does that mean? You mean you thought I wasn't smart? He was like, no, just not as smart as you are. I get underestimated all the time. I think I have a very friendly, like kind of what is it, Pillsbury Doughboy personality, and I think that makes people think that I'm dumb and that maybe I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not worth talking to. I could probably be more stylish. I'm not that stylish, honestly. I think people underestimate folks when they're not looking very stylish on it. I really think that too. I could definitely do my hair better. So yeah, sometimes people underestimate me, but also like, hey, you know what? I could change those things if it really bothered me. And then, but it's not worth it to me to change my personality in particular. So I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What was a moment you realized people were paying attention and were interested in what you were building?
Yeah, so we had early traction. So what we did was we invited 10 friends in the industry to join the community, like just like private Slack, like, hey, just 10 peeps. And then we had a form people had to fill in. So we have the ability to kind of track it by numbers. Hey, the interest has grown over time. We're now at like 4,000 people. That's a lot of people that care. I think I've really realized that we have now people are caring and listening and paying attention to the Cybersecurity Marketing Society. When I talk to someone I've never met and they say, I've heard of you, and people have said great things about your group, and I'm like, oh, so that's how I know that we're actually spreading beyond just the people that are in myself and Maria's circle.
As I'm starting to wrap things up a little bit here, what are some key takeaways or just things that I haven't touched on that you would like to say or that you think are really valuable?
Let me think about that for one sec. I think that getting past that analysis paralysis and getting past that, like, I need to make a plan, and the plans are good, let me be clear, but getting past the like everything needs to be perfect and just doing things, I think is really, really important. And it's kind of a skill I had to learn. And I think that's one of the most important things that folks can take away is that you can start a podcast. How? By doing it, like what you're doing. You can, right? Like,
yeah,
by doing it. You can start a blog. You can start a company. Will it be successful? I don't know, but you can try. And like, that's what matters. And that's how you grow as a person. Like I personally learn by reading and by doing. And there's no better experience than trying something.